I'm doing it again. I'm not sure how many of you remembered my all healers to 3k challenge from Dragonflight Season 3, but I think it's time for another challenge. I learned a lot from my first 3k challenge, and while it was a super success, a lot of people learned about me from it, and I felt so good completing it. There were some issues. I wanted to come up with a challenge that was a little bit more down to earth and a little bit nicer to my free time. That way, if anyone else wanted to do the challenge, it could be something that's considered fun, or ooh, that sounds difficult, I want to do it. So I have a new challenge to present to all of you, and some of what I've learned from the 3k challenge that I want to address. Furthermore, I haven't really decided all the specs that I'm going to play, so I really, from the bottom of my heart, would love to hear in the comments section, as I go through that segment, what you want me to play. Now, I am only set on a couple of things, so I'll list them in that section, but for now, my name is BowserTheHealer, and let's talk about it. When I'm talking about issues with the first 3k challenge, there were certain things that I had to come up with rules for on the fly because I had never done a challenge like that before. For instance, what are the rules on crafting, or what about going to a raid? These are things that I didn't really account for, including people key sniping me from stream, as well as accidentally running into friends that I never friended on BattleNet, but I friended on the PTR. So I needed to come up with ways that we deal with those weird situations while not also disrespecting the time management of the person doing the challenge. Especially when it comes to other forms of content. I love me some PvP, I love me some raiding, we now have delves. What's going to be allowed in a Mythic Plus focused challenge? I know that I'm privileged that I have a guild that is more than willing to let me come on an alt and go play and get some hand-me-down gear for funsies when we know we got heroic or mythic on lock. I think players that are doing a Mythic Plus based challenge might not have that opportunity, so I wanted to have some hard set rules on that, especially crafted gear. What do you do with crafted gear when embellishments exist, but maybe you don't want people to get all of their crafted gear? So I did come up with solutions to all of this, including being able to play with friends. So let's talk about the challenge. The challenge is called the All Roll Legend. This is the new achievement we have called Keystone Legend. It's when you get to 2850 Raider IO score for a particular character. And yeah, afterwards I plan on going to 3k, so I just wanted to have a good name for it. If you want to do a All Rolls Master or All Rolls Hero, you could also do an adjusted version of this that's maybe a little bit easier or a little bit more advanced, whatever you're feeling. Let's go over the rules. First things first, it's 3 roles, 3 specs, 3 characters to Keystone Legend, then 3k. You're not allowed to get on your monk and play Brewmaster and then go play Mistweaver and then go play Windwalker. That is a good achievement. You're not going to hear me talking any crap about that, but I know how the pugs work. I think having 3 separate characters is the way to go. So if you want to have 3 different characters, one's a Mistweaver, one's a Brewmaster, one's a Windwalker, hey, be my guest. But I'm going to spice things up and try not to run more than 2 of the same class, but they will be on different characters if that ends up happening. And also, pugging only. No friends allowed, no pre-mades. You go in solo to the party finder and you run a dungeon. Now, you are allowed to continue running with the same group if y'all had a fun time and want to play. But when I did my 3k challenge, I made sure I only said yes, but I never asked people if they wanted to run again. I'm going to do that personally, but I think part of the joy of this challenge and the 3k challenge I did before was that when you got a good group, it was nice to get 2, 3, 4 keys done back to back, getting score on all of them. You can only earn score on the spec that you chose for the challenge. So let's say you wanted to grind gear as a healer, but you picked Shadow Priest for the challenge. Sure, you know what? I don't think that's a problem, but for delve level and dungeon level, it has to be below something you've already timed. So if you want to farm 8s for gear, you have to have timed a 9. And I think that's a good way to deter people from making mistakes. But what if a mistake does happen? Then simply run the key back. Let's say you were expecting to do a 9 on Shadow Priest, and oops, it was a 10, and it was a faster 10 than the one you did when you were playing Discipline Priest for the challenge. You know what? That's totally fine. Just run that 10 back. The next key that you do should be that 10. Try to get it timed, and then you're free. I think that's a good way to pay penance to mistakes that might happen. I don't think you need to create a whole new character, and that'll get around anybody who's worried about making mistakes. Don't worry about it. They happen. Just run it back. Crafted gear is allowed, and you can have as much of it as you want, but you can only have 2 pieces equipped. This is to allow people to run embellishments, which are extremely meta for normal gearing, and it should allow you to have a little bit of optimization for, hey, I can't get a ring to drop, or oh, I can't find those boots anywhere. You can go craft them and make that your embellished slot. However, you can't be running around in a ton of crafted gear. So make sure you know what your embellishments are. Maybe make sure every piece has an embellishment so that you can't accidentally equip more. And there's plenty of content in WoW to get gear from now. Anything open world is totally fine. Delves and dungeons are totally fine, but I'm going to say no PvP gear and no raid gear. If you want a PvP, you should probably play it on another character. Now, you can definitely go to raid. If you want to get Valor Stones and crests from raid, I think that's fine. And if there's any sneaky, weird player power that's involving you to go to raid in order to complete it, like Season 3 of Dragonflight with a Mirjacell, that's totally fine. But Warbound gear, BOEs, and anything you can roll on loot, you pass on the loot. Feel free to sell those BOEs, but you can't equip them. Warbound gear, you throw it out. I do have a rule for Warbound gear, but nothing is allowed to come from the raid. Even your vault slots, if you get a vault piece that's really, really nice and it's on the raid track, you can't grab it. So get rid of it. But I do know that we've been a little starved for Valor Stones and for crests, so I think it'd be a little unfair to say you can't run raid, as why not go into LFR and get a bunch of Valor Stones? Yeah, I get it, but pass on all the gear. And I think that's a nice way to do it. If there is a weekly dungeon quest that might give you raid gear, that's going to be fine because you run dungeons for it, and I'll try to document any pieces that I get from said weeklies, and that's if I remember to do them. So Warbound gear is allowed outside of raids, like in dungeons, open world, or in delves, but I want you to think about it like this. Your little trio of the challenge is self-found. They're not allowed to get gear from your other characters, but they can give each other gear. So let's say that you find a nice plate shoulder and you want to give it to your tank that uses plate, and it's all within the challenge, yeah, then one of your challenge characters can give that Warbound piece to another challenge character. It's self-found inside of the challenge. I hope that makes sense. But if you're getting confused by that, just don't equip anything Warbound, unless it fits the character you got it from. Yeah, if you're in a dungeon and you get some Warbound leather pants and your character's leather and you needed pants, okay, ta-da, you can wear it. But I would say keep the Warbound gear within your challenge and you're fine. And as I mentioned earlier, delves are totally fine, but follows the same rule. You can solo it or you can pug it, but no friends allowed. All right, but you might be wondering, Bowser, what are you going to play? Tell us. All right. I got you. I've already chosen the tank, and I'll explain why I'm picking that tank, but I'll need your input for healers and DPS, as there's a couple of options that I've had on my mind for a while now. For the tank, I'm picking Guardian Druid. I was going to play Prot Warrior, but with some of the nerfs coming in with it, I'm not sure how much fun I'm going to have with it, but also it's definitely the tank I have the most experience on and I'm the most knowledgeable about. So I was thinking about going to Guardian Druid because it's one of my favorites, and while it is, I think, the easiest tank in the game, it's really fun. Something about bears and laser beams, it's exactly what I want. So I'd like to get better at Guardian Druid. And I have another tank thing coming up, and I'll tell you that at the end of the video. On the healer side of things, I'm really feeling Discipline Priest as the #1 pick, mostly because it is in fact still the hardest healer to pug with, I think. When things go wrong, it falls apart on disc, and fixing it as disc is extremely difficult. So I kind of want to push myself and play some disc. But if we're thinking disc is too strong, oh, it's too good, and even when it's the best healer spec in the game, it is usually still pretty bad at pugging, I'm down for Holy. Holy Priest, all the changes coming to it, I'm about to make a video on it. If you want to see that video, let me know. I love it. It's so much fun right now. I really think it's fixed some of the issues that I've had with it this season, or this season being season 1 of the War Within. So I'm down to play Holy as well if you guys don't like the disc idea. Now, there's a really funny thing I can tell you, and Mistweaver's also on the table. But you might be thinking to yourself, Bowser, don't you say that Mistweaver's like one of the best healers at pugging? Yeah, and it's even going to be strong next season. So what am I on about here? Well, remember that whole raiding rule? Yeah, I mythic raid with my guild, so wouldn't it be funny if I wasn't allowed to have any gear from raid at all? Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny too. If you guys want to hear about additionally the Mistweaver side of that, raiding with no gear from heroic, normal, mythic, or LFR on a mythic raiding team, feel free, ask me to do it. That would be really fun. I think Mistweaver being a bit easy for the healer side wouldn't be so bad if there's this other tougher side I have to accommodate for. I also am down to play Preservation Evoker, but it's not going to be my main, as I think I mentioned earlier. I'm going to leave my main Preservation Evoker for friends so that I can gear it and score it myself and have fun with them without having to adhere to a challenge. Because I'm going to be real with you, that last challenge took 5 months, yes, 5 months of my life to hit 3k on every healer, pugging only, in Dragonflight Season 3. I do not want to repeat that and not play with my friends for like almost half a year. So I've decided that I do have a character on the side, but I'm willing to play another Preservation Evoker. I actually have an alt ready to go and start gearing if that's the one we're choosing. Now, Holy Paladin isn't here because I'm not really in a Holy Paladin mood. I like it, it's in a good place, but I feel like there's enough crossover with Mistweaver and Holy Paladin that I don't really feel like playing Holy Paladin when I already play a lot of Mistweaver. I'm also having like Shadowlands withdrawals, and I'm aware I'm the only person who will ever say that, but I miss my Necrotic Hammer, and so it's just throwing Judgment just isn't hitting the same right now. I can't explain it. It's all in my head. I'm not playing Resto Shaman because, again, it's one of the best pug healers, but I wouldn't bring it to raid as well. I'd probably get good at it pretty quickly like I have in the past, but I feel like it's just a little too good for what I'm looking for, and it won't push me in a way that's exciting. But don't worry, I'll probably go and play it at the end of the season alongside Resto Druid. Resto Druid I'm also not playing, but it's been in a rough spot all season, and I'm looking forward to the changes that it's getting, so I kind of want to let my Resto Druid friends cook and then show me what the spec can do, and then I'll check it out after my challenge. As for the damage dealers, let's keep it simple. Devastation Evoker, Arms Warrior, or Shadow Priest. All three of those I feel like have a good mix of utility without being kind of over the top, and allow me to really push myself as a DPS. I know how to play all three of these, Shadow being the one I'm maybe the weakest on right now, but all of them sound fun and exciting to me, especially Shadow, but that's because everyone likes to complain about Shadow, kind of like Boomy players, and I hear the complaints and I try to be like sympathetic, but also I have none of the problems these people talk about, and it makes me a little worried about the player base, or maybe I'm just built different. But Shadow Priest is super fun, and I would have an absolute blast playing it, Arms Warrior, or Devastation Evoker for the challenge. Now, Frost Mage was in contention, as was Fire Mage, but I feel like Fire Mage, with its plethora of good crowd control, an excellent kick, a spell steal, a shield for yourself, a shield for your team, multiple defensives and ways to self-heal, it feels like it's got everything. Sort of like Resto Shaman, and as much as I love that, I don't think that would be good for the challenge, so I'm going to not play Frost unless, and I mean it, all of you are begging me to play Frost Mage down in the comment section. I'm actually just going to say, probably not. It would take a lot of convincing to get me to play Frost this season. And there you have it. I want to hear what you think in the comments section, and before y'all go, I mentioned one more challenge. I'm gonna do a tank challenge all to 3k. Not this season, maybe next season, but I made a vow to myself, a New Year's resolution that I wanted to get better at tanking. I love tanking as a fantasy. I oftentimes get this anxiety that kind of prevents me from playing. So this year, I've already been on top of it. I've been tanking in Overwatch, I've been tanking in 14, and it's time that I bring that energy to World of Warcraft. So while probably not this season, yeah, you're gonna see a bit of a Bowser the Tank era, maybe in a season or maybe in next expansion, who knows. But either way, that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far, hey, hit subscribe if you liked the video. It'd really mean a lot to me. But I'll see you all at the challenge, and I'm looking forward to reading the comments. Take care, everyone.